afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Tuesday, August 19th. Starting with the big debate between Ferguson and Bondi. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson doubled down today on his commitment to maintain Washington as a sanctuary state for law-abiding immigrants. Ferguson criticized U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi over her threats to potentially criminally charge him for not cooperating with federal immigration authorities.
Pam Bondi seems to think and seeks to have Washington State bend the knee to a Trump administration that day by day drags us closer to authoritarianism.
Bondi told Ferguson and Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell last week they needed to cooperate with immigration authorities. Washington has a law prohibiting police from asking about citizenship status in most cases and hampering access by immigration agents to local jails and prisons. In a Fox News interview yesterday, Bondi said she told 7 governors last week that if they don't comply, the federal government's prepared to send in the National Guard. And you should know about 2 other disagreements between the feds and local leaders. Washington State's U.S. senators say Washington will continue to use vote by mail in every election, as it has done securely for 14 years. On Monday, President Trump wrote on social media he would end vote by mail before the 2026 midterm elections, calling the practice corrupt. Democratic Senator Patty Murray says the president doesn't dictate how we run our elections, and Senator Maria Cantwell says vote by mail is, quote, the most safe and trackable method of voting. Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs said Trump's idea was a direct threat to every American's right to cast a ballot. There is no evidence that mail-in voting has led to fraudulent outcomes. And Washington's joined a multi-state lawsuit against the Trump administration for withholding more than $1 billion for crime victims. Attorney General Nick Brown says Washington expected nearly $30 million because it was already approved by Congress. But the White House isn't happy with Washington state's immigration policies and is threatening to withhold funding from states that it says aren't adequately assisting immigration officials. COVID is at its highest point in a year in King County. Locally, doctors are seeing nearly twice the normal number of ER visits due to COVID. Eilish O'Neill has more.
Nationwide, COVID ER visits are at their highest point since January, though nowhere near the spikes of the last 2 summers. But in King County, we didn't have a sharp spike last winter, so this is our biggest outbreak in a long time. Dr. Eric Chow is chief epidemiologist at King County's public health agency.
Historically, we'll always think about respiratory illness season as the fall and winter, but COVID, with this increase during the summer for several years now, I really want people to make sure that they aren't caught off guard by this. Even if you might not be at risk for severe disease, it is really terrible when you get COVID-19.
Dr. Chow says even if you're up to date on your COVID vaccine, you could consider masking up on airplanes or in other crowded indoor spaces. Nationally, hospitalizations for COVID are still relatively low, but are starting to tick up. Eilish O'Neill, KUOW News.
A nonprofit devoted to preventing gun violence in Washington state has launched a new website to demystify a tool for Washingtonians experiencing threats or violence, a protection order. Noelle Gasca has more.
In Washington, civil protection orders are available for people experiencing dangerous situations like domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. They can prohibit contact between victims and their abusers, and in some cases, order them to temporarily give up their firearms. Protection orders can play a vital role in preventing violence on a greater scale, says Renee Tompkins, the CEO of the Alliance for Gun Responsibility.
There's also a huge intersection between domestic violence and mass shootings, and extremist protection orders have been really valuable tool in intervening in threats of mass violence as well.
Washingtonians who think they may need to file a protection order can now go onto wawprotectionorders.org and learn how to file one. Noelle Gasca, KUOW News.
Fred Meyer is closing 5 stores in the Puget Sound region over the coming months. 2 were just revealed today, the Lake City Way and Redmond Fred Meyer stores. That's according to the union UFCW 3000 that represents grocery workers. On top of those closures, just yesterday it was revealed Fred Meyer will close stores in Kent and Everett. And last month, the company said it would shutter a Tacoma Fred Meyer and also a Mill Creek QFC. The stores are owned by Kroger. The union says closures will affect more than 700 workers and that representatives will bargain over the changes. Kroger has said it would close underperforming stores and cited theft as a reason for some of the closures. Union leaders are raising concerns about food access for lower and middle-income neighborhoods. In wildfire news, one of the tallest trees in the world is burning on the Oregon coast. For more on the Dorner fir, here's OPB's Riley Martinez.
The Dorner fir east of Coquille is over 325 feet tall and at least 450 years old. Over the weekend, firefighters in Coos County responded to a call saying the historic tree was on fire. Firefighters dumped water from helicopters to cool the top of the tree and prevent spreading. Now the fire is burning inside of the tree's trunk, about 250 feet up. But flaming debris makes it unsafe for firefighters to get too close, so crews are looking for other ways to put out the remaining flames. Megan Harper is with the Bureau of Land Management. She's optimistic about the fate of the historic tree.
Being a whole tree, the chances that the whole tree is going to burn is pretty small, it seems like.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation. I'm Riley Martinez, reporting.
Other fiery news, but on the sports front, Major League Baseball has suspended Victor Robles for 10 games. Sunday, he threw his bat at a Las Vegas pitcher who nearly hit him with the ball. Robles, who's part of the Seattle Mariners roster, has been playing with AAA Tacoma while he recovers from injury. He has apologized and says he was frustrated after recently getting hit by 3 pitches, enduring injury most of the season, and on top of that, his mother died recently. The Seattle Times reports he'll appeal the decision. Now, our feature story today. Have you looked closely at the views of Mount Rainier this summer? Many people have noticed it's looking much darker and bare for lack of snow. KNKX's Bellamy Palethorpe asked an expert what's going on.
Climate change is melting glaciers and causing them to retreat all around the world. And you can now see that happening in the views of Mount Rainier, especially in the middle elevations that are visible from Seattle and Tacoma. Glaciologist Maury Pelto says this year's very dry summer has left the mountain's shrinking glaciers exposed.
All the snowpack that had formed on the surface during the winter of 2025, is gone.
Pelto is a professor at Nichols College in Massachusetts. He's the director of the North Cascade Glacier Climate Project there. He began monitoring 47 glaciers in Washington's North Cascades more than 4 decades ago. 12 of those glaciers have since disappeared. Pelto keeps an eye on Mount Rainier through satellite imagery and says a big change started in the summer of 2021 when the record heat dome in the Northwest melted much of the perennial snowpack between Rainier's glaciers. And in the summers since, Pelto says nighttime temperatures have become so warm that the melting never stops.
It just isn't getting cold enough at night for the surface to refreeze. And so when you look at the mountain today, you will see that it's bare in that 10 to 13,000 foot elevation range, and it is down around 8,000 feet.
He says some of Rainier's glaciers that are still visible from Seattle, like the Carbon and North Mowich glaciers, appear darker because of the debris they carry. He expects in the future, for at least 3 months of the year, Mount Rainier will no longer be gleaming white with snow. Expect more gray and brown rock instead. I'm Bellamy Palethorpe reporting.
Next time on Seattle Now, Washington State needs more mental health care providers, but there are a lot of qualified people waiting for the state to issue them a license.
The state of Washington, as of August 8th, had nearly 3,600 applications in the queue to review. This is everyone from, potential social workers to mental health counselors.
Learn more Wednesday morning. And that's all for today from the KUOW newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you soon.